The reason why I entered entrepreneurship is to give you some backstory. Is after I had graduated high school, I, like everyone else, you kind of pursue the college route, and I pursued college. I pursued community college, and my major was business administration. And when I was going to college, I really didn't have an idea or a sense of direction as to what it is I really wanted to do. I just personally knew I wanted to do something in business, and business administration I knew was going to help help me open a lot of doors with business admin under my belt. So I kind of after high school, I ended up pursuing college and community college, and I was doing that for first semester is I was me having SMA and me having a low immune system that I have. I tend to get sick quite easily than most. For example, a cough to you can be like an pneumonia to me. Congestion to you, like a simple flu to you, simple cough, simple congestion. You feeling under the weather can be like a pneumonia, collapsed lungs for me, putting me in the hospital, sometimes even into the ICU. And at the time when I went to community college, this community college is way different than normal high school, at least the high school that I had went to and the community college that I had attended. Is the accommodations are a lot different. In the high school, if I needed assistance, a lot of the times I was okay in school, meaning I really didn't need assistance too much. There would be some days where my SMA wouldn't be doing the greatest, and I would need a teacher to help me take notes, little things like that. But it was very rare. It wasn't like something that was consistent and all the time. Anyhow, or even if I needed something out of my backpack, the teachers, the students would help me get whatever it is that I needed in my backpacks. Needed in my backpack, such as like my notebook, pencils, whatever it is that I may need. So in high school, that was like my normalcy because I was familiar with that. However, in college, their accommodations are a lot differently. In college, when you go, it's the teachers cannot really take notes for you. They can share the notes that they may have, but it's not likely. So for me, when I was attending college, there would be sometimes I would need help taking notes, and the only way for me to gather notes is one, asking another student, hey, can I use your notes? Or two, there would have to be a volunteer student that would take notes for me. And again, only on those days when like my SMA is not doing the greatest. So the accommodations are a lot differently. I was not used to the whole difference between high school and college when it came to a lot of the times I was fortunate where if I needed something in my backpack, I would ask the teacher. A lot of the times the teacher wouldn't really mind. If they were really busy, they would simply just tell me, can you ask a student? And I would have to ask a student in hopes that they would be kind enough to get whatever it was that I needed. And so that was my college experience. But back to what I was saying about how I tend to get sick easily. My immune system is low. My immune system is not the strongest. Is when I would again, back to what I was saying is what may be a cough to you can be an pneumonia and collapsed lungs to me. It was sometimes those days or when I am in those environments, especially if you're in an enclosed environment such as like a classroom. What's happening? If someone's coughing, if someone is feeling under the weather, you're marinating is probably not the right word, but you're marinating in that sickness. You know what I mean? So I, because of my high school experiences, like to give you some more context with my high school experience, is like I think 60%. There was like a percentage of it. Dad told me about it. I think it was roughly 60% out of my entire 4 years of high school education. I missed 60% of my entire high school experience because I was sick a lot. Like 6 months out of the year, I was living in the hospital, whether it's regular hospital administration or regular regular hospital administration, or I was in the ICU for weeks at a time. Like that was my normalcy. So because of my high school experiences, and because I was attending community college, I knew like it was bound for me, just because of again my high school experiences. I knew it was bound for me to get sick when during when it gets colder. So I was attending college, and right once I attended, I had went up to all of my professors, teachers, and I had told them, hey, this is my disability. This is what I go through. I cannot say 100%, but it is likely that sometime in November, even December, I may have to go to the hospital for catching because I have pneumonia and collapsed lungs. And all the teachers and professors, they all said the same thing. We will cross that bridge when we cross it. Well, that time did actually happen. The time for me to cross that bridge, it was now time for me to cross that bridge. I ended up having pneumonia, collapsed lung, was in the hospital for quite some time. I think it was like maybe 2 weeks. I think it was 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks roughly. And I was in the hospital, and I had emailed all of my teachers, and I was like, hey, this is what I'm going through. Sorry, I am not attending class. I am in the hospital at the moment. I have pneumonia, collapsed lungs. Is there any way that I can have someone pick up my work and I can do it here in the hospital? It happened. It was unfortunate for me where that it wasn't so much as easy as for me to have someone pick up my work and me doing it and me doing the work in the hospital. It wasn't that easy. When I had ended up getting sick, it was literally the week of finals. So when it's finals, you really can't take your work outside of the classroom, because you can cheat on your test, or you can cheat, right? Unfortunately for me, when I had gotten sick, it was during the week of finals. All my teachers and professors basically said the same thing. I am sorry, you are going to have to retake the class next semester if the class is available. As you can imagine, I was very frustrated. I was very annoyed with the situation, as you can imagine. So me being optimistic, I was like, you know what? I will do online classes. If I get sick, I can simply just do the work on the computer, do it that way. Ended up taking online classes. The one thing I really, really didn't like about online classes is whenever like your work is due, you have a question, you can't exactly just raise your hand and ask the teacher, hey, can you help me with ... It's not as easy as that. For me, when you do online classes, is whenever I would have a question, I would have to email the teacher, let them know what it is that I do not understand, or maybe something I need more clarity on. Excuse me. Maybe something I need help with, something I need more clarity on, and in hopes that they respond to my message on a timely manner where it's not so close to the deadline, so I can get the work done not so late, if that makes sense. That is one thing I did not personally like about online classes, or two things really, which was like, if I have a question, if I have a question, it's not so much as getting an answer quickly. I personally didn't like that, especially on a timely manner. So when it me being me is, as time went on, not me being me, but as time went on, I was doing online classes, and me personally, it just wasn't something that just didn't feel right to me. I don't know how to really explain that. It just didn't feel right for me. Like, I just felt like this isn't my path. I cannot explain it. Ended up talking to my mom, and I had a talk with her, and I was like, hey, I said it differently, of course, but it was along the lines of, how would you feel if I drop out of college? And she understood exactly what I was coming from. Oh, and two, something I almost missed that I would love to add in this video is, there was one class that was upstairs, maybe even two classes that were upstairs, and the buttons for the elevators were extremely high. Me having SMA, I cannot pick up my hand and click the elevator button. So what I would have to do is I'd have to wait by the elevator, wait for a student, wait for somebody to walk by and say, hey, would you mind pressing the elevator so I can go upstairs, in hopes that, like, there was one time I was waiting by the elevator, I think like 5-10 minutes for picture that, 5-10 minutes and you're going to class, sometimes I'd be late, sometimes I'd make it on time. And that too was something that bothered me when I was going in person. So I talked to my mom. Back to what I was saying is, I was talking to my mom and I asked her, I was like, how would you feel like if I dropped out of college? And she was like, she didn't say I don't care, but she basically said, I don't care what you do, I just want you to do something, and she understood my perspective. Like, she's seen the circumstances, she knows how my disability is, she knows how, like, the accommodations from high school to my high school experiences to my college experiences are completely different. So she understood my point of view, so I was very fortunate for that. She just said, I don't mind what you do, I just want you to do something, I don't want you to do nothing, And two, I think it was easier for me too, because my mom had heard stories from other people that for example, I played wheelchair soccer, so my mom heard stories of other people that were in wheelchairs who attended college and their accommodations were not the greatest and they had dropped out themselves. So she understood, like, 100% my point of view, my perspective. So I was fortunate for that I had the support from her, to understand where I was coming from. So I ended up making the decision to drop out of college and community college. And I will never forget, like Maya Angelou said it best. She says, you may forget what someone said, but you will never forget how someone made you feel. And I remember going to college, and I don't think they didn't mean anything wrong by it. It's just how I personally felt during this process. When I had attended college in person, and I was basically dropping out, I remember when I was dropping out, I just got the look of like you're throwing your life away. You know what I mean? I can't really explain that part. And again, you may forget what someone said, but you will never forget how someone made you feel. And for me, just the look from me dropping out, they were like, are you sure? You want to give it a second try, And they were trying to talk me out of it, which was good, don't get me wrong with that. But I just, the look I got was just like disappointment, Not from my mom or from my support system, but from the person that I was basically signing to drop out. Again, you may forget what someone said, but you will never forget how someone made you feel. So that was always in the back of my mind, like when I reflect back on it, compared to how far I have come now. Anyhow, so I ended up dropping out, and at that point, I had no sense of direction. I didn't know what it was I wanted to do. I didn't know. I had no sense of direction at all. I simply dropped out, and I was doing what every teenager basically does, is they sit in the room and they play video games. Well, at this one, there was one particular day I will never forget it. I was playing GTA 5, and I was playing the game, and when I was playing, a lot of the times, like at that age, for me, when I would play the game, I would reflect, I would be in my thoughts a lot, And I remember this one particular night, I was just thinking, and I was thinking to myself, I had my headphones in, I was playing the game, and I was just thinking to myself, like, what is it that I am doing? Like, I say I want this, I say I want that lifestyle, but I'm doing absolutely nothing to get there, I'm not streaming on the game, I'm not doing anything to get there, And this guy ended up, after like my life after I had dropped out was like a constant, it was on repeat. The way I woke up was the exact same way I went to bed. I was able to predict my next day, like down to the T. I was able to predict, okay, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to do X, Y, Z, I'm going to eat, I'm going to play the game, and then it's time for bed, and then do the same thing the next day all over again. And for me, that was very boring. I didn't like it. I was back to what I was saying is I was thinking to myself, and I was just really deep in my thoughts, and I was like, what is it that I want? I say I want the cars, I say I want the houses, I say I want to offer financial freedom for my mom, or I say I want to help the family, I say I want to help certain people, I want to help people, but I'm doing absolutely nothing to make that happen. That night, it was like a light bulb just clicked, or it was more like a sense of determination was birthed. And I started doing research on my phone, and I was simply just Googling jobs that I can work at home, jobs how can I make money at home, jobs where I can work at home. I started doing a lot of research like that. And then over time, then as you start typing and you start reading different things, then you start to pick up on certain things. You're like, what, let me look that up. Let me look this up. Let me see what this is. And after quite some time, then I finally asked myself that one big question. How can I be a millionaire? How can I build a business from home? Jobs that I could work at home and make $1 million. I started to, questions like that then started to transform from what I originally was typing and searching. And as time went on, I came across this business model, a lot of different business models, like real estate was one of them. A lot of different stuff was started to come up. And me, because of my disability, I knew, I cannot speak for everyone with a disability. I cannot speak with everyone who has SMA. I can only speak from me and my own story. I knew because of my disability and because of the pattern of my disability at the time, meaning I knew I tend to get sick easily. Well, what if I work at a job, I work for someone, right? And I end up getting sick like I did when I was attending college. What happens? I'm going to get fired, right? Because I'm not able to show up. I'm not able to commit 100%, to this job or this person. So I knew that in order for me to do something and make it make sense, I knew I needed to work for myself. I knew I needed to do something for myself. I needed to be my own boss. And that is when I understood I needed to start my own business. So again, back to earlier, is I started to research a lot of different things, and I came across this business model called dropshipping. And I came across this business model, dropshipping, and I found this model, and it instantly captured my attention. Now, a lot of things do not capture my attention, but once something captures my attention, I'm sure, like a lot of you, once something captures your attention, a lot of stuff it just comes to you like naturally. You pick up things that not just anyone is able to pick up or understand. This business model was just natural. I don't get me wrong, I was no expert. I did not gain a huge skill set, right from the beginning. Of course not. I learned through trial and error. But just something was just natural with starting this new thing. And so ended up doing some research on dropshipping, and it so happened, now knowing what I know now I understand it better. But at the time, it was just so coincidentally where after I was looking into dropshipping and I started doing more research on Google, then I started to do more research on YouTube, and I started to understand the business model a little bit more. Then I think it was 3 o'clock that morning, I was up super late, just super excited. Like, okay, you know what? I'm starting to now have a sense of direction. And then it was like, I think it was actually that next morning, excuse me. I ended up coming, it was on Facebook, and I was just scrolling through my feed, and an ad had came up, which was a drop shipping a drop shipping course to help you teach the blueprint from A to Z on how to build a store, how to get suppliers, how to sell products. Drop shipping is the e-commerce industry. So you create a store, you have a supplier, which is you find a product, you find a supplier, and then you market it through online advertising. So for me at that time, it was like Facebook and Instagram, and I was learning those things. So I coincidentally, in my mind at the time, I was like, this is a sign, like this is what I need to do. And I ended up coming across this course, and it was like $2,500. But I was able to make $500 payments. But the big thing so it was $2,500, and I was like, I don't have $2,500, So my hopes are kind of like shattered. That's a big chunk of cash, especially at the age that I was at. But then, after I waited for some time, then the ad kept coming up again. And I seen the ad again, but now they had a payment plan, which you can do $500 instead of the $2,500 up front. So $500 a month. And I was like, I might be able to do that. And then I started to ask my mom for the cash. She didn't have it at the time. I asked, I think my aunts at the time, my Nina, and she didn't have the cash. I think I only asked my mom. And then I asked my grandma, and I didn't ask my Nina. I asked my mom, she didn't have it. I asked my grandma, because my grandma was living with me at the time, and she didn't have it. And they looked really bummed too, because I was like super excited, but to know that they didn't have it at the time, and it was saddened them a little bit, because I knew they wanted to help me. Because again, I was excited, And anyhow, I will talk about this in my book in much more detail, but fortunately, by some miracle, I ended up getting the $500, and a huge blessing. And all I needed was that one payment, and the months to come after, I was able to do it myself. I just needed that $500 payment. Just once, And I was able to get the $500, and I was able to buy the course, and I was so excited. I literally studied. I had pictures and videos of me studying and I was in my room for hours at a time studying this YouTube course, studying it over and over and over again, watching YouTube videos on it over and over and over again. But I primarily started to focus on the YouTube course because you don't want to learn different techniques from too many different people, especially when you're especially when you are just beginning something new. You know what I mean? You don't want to learn from too many different teachers because everybody has their own different style of techniques, And I was watching this course over and over again until I finally finally had the knowledge enough for me to create my own store, get my own domain, which is like your URL link that people search up on the internet. And then I did countless hours of research on finding, okay, what product am I going to sell, and started doing that. Found a product that I liked. I thought was really good. It's my first thing, of course. Anything you start new, it's amazing. It's great. You know what I mean? Reflecting on it, the store was trash. When I reflect back on it, but at the time it was like amazing. It was perfect. It was beautiful. You know what I mean? It was flawless. And so I built the website, found a product, found a supplier to handle my product, and then now it's time for me to start running ads. Set up my ads and did all that, and the rest is kind of history. Did I succeed at this business model? No, I did not. I failed over and over and over again, like so many times and beyond. I failed way more times so many times that I cannot count how many times I have failed just within that business model. And I started that store, didn't work out. Tried a different product, didn't work out. Tried several other products, didn't work out. Started a different store. Maybe it was a store, maybe it was a name, didn't work out. Like nothing just seemed to be working out. And time started to go by. Like a year went by, nothing. 2 years went by. I think the first year I made. I can't remember the first year how much I made. But I started this business model, and so I dropped out in 2018 in January, like the end of January. I think it was the third week of January. I entered Entrepreneurship. I bought the course in February 2019. No, excuse me. I dropped out of college 2018, like third week of January. Entered Entrepreneurship by buying the course and doing that. Entered Entrepreneurship in February 2018. Built my store in March. Made my first sale like March 13th, I think it was. Excuse me. March 13th, March 11th. It was like maybe March 12th. It was like the second week of March. Made my first sale. It was like $13.97. I will never forget it. And I was asleep when I had made that sale. I believe I got that sale like around like 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. I was still asleep. I woke up and I remember just how excited I was to make my first dollar when I was asleep. Like that was like a huge milestone. That was a huge milestone for me to have made my first dollar being asleep. If I can make money when I am asleep, I know I am going to put myself in a comfortable position. I know that certain things that I want to do, take care of my mom, take care of my family, I take care of myself because because my disability is progressive. If I can set my future up, if I can set my mom's future up, if I can set certain individuals up, like that's like the end goal. That's the ultimate goal. And at the time, I remember I was just really excited. And so I built the store, failed so many times. However, but I wanted to include this in the video is throughout like 3 years of me doing dropshipping, doing that business model, I made $800 once during Thanksgiving. I remember I was like super excited. I was selling like a little bit lower high ticket item. It was like $40 product. I was selling, and I remember making like $800 on Thanksgiving, and I wasn't doing anything. I set up the back end of it, to run ads and do all that thing. I had to set up a lot of different things to allow me the opportunity to kind of just be with my family during Thanksgiving, and not really have to do anything. And I made $800. I remember, I do remember though, during Thanksgiving we were having, after we ate dinner and stuff, the way I had set up my store at the time is if you had a question and if you wanted access to a live chat, I was the one on the other end of it. So if you had a question, maybe like, how much is the product, or do you guys have a discount, or whatever, I was the one on the other end. During Thanksgiving, I was sitting in the corner on the table. I was just around family, and I picked up my phone vibrated, checked out what's going on. Oh, a customer had messaged you, such and such question. I think they had asked me about a discount. And I remember I did a few sales just that way. I think it was like 2 or 3 sales. Nothing big, but I made money, whereas I probably would have lost that customer, if I didn't do that. That was a cool experience, and I really reflect on it. I will write a book about it. I will have a lot of this in detail with my whole entrepreneurship journey. To give you guys more context, I won't say the number here, but to give you guys some context is, although I spent a lot within those 3 years, I think it was 2 years, 3 years, I think it was 3 years. Although I spent a lot within the 3 years that I was in e-commerce and I was doing dropshipping, I practically just about broke even. I did lose money. I didn't profit. I didn't gain anything, but I did just about break even. And the biggest hindrance for me at the time was whenever I would run into a problem, more so with my Facebook advertisement. Like there would be days I would literally send out, I remember counted, hundreds and hundreds of emails to a lot of different suppliers so I can get the best supplier to sell my product with the best quality possible to have on my store. I remember sending hundreds and hundreds, like not over exaggerating, like a minimum 500 emails in one day, sending out messages to suppliers, to see who can sell this product for me. And I remember that vividly, like yesterday. And I want to move my mouse here so my screen doesn't go dark. And so that's when I reflect on it. It's to reflect on where I was to like now. It's quite extraordinary. Don't get me wrong. The journey has been very difficult. It hasn't been easy, both personally and professionally. A lot of stuff has happened. It's been quite the journey, to say the least. The good, the bad, and the ugly, all in between. Very fortunate for all of it, despite how I may have felt on the bad and the ugly days. A lot of the times when I would question why me, a lot of the times I would feel like life is going so much against me, why nothing seems to be working for me, despite how much it felt like life was just going against me, and life was really just trying to break me or stop me and hinder me, especially with my disability. Back to what I was saying is one of the biggest hindrance for me with this business model is advertising. When I would run into a problem at like 4 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, I couldn't exactly just get out of bed, get on my computer, fix whatever the issue was that were going on with my ad accounts, and I couldn't exactly just do that. I would get notified, your ads are disabled, your ads are not running, and that within itself is preparation. You have to kind of plan in advance to run ads. If you, at the time, I don't know about it now, but at the time, if you really wanted your ads to work the most effectively, you would want to do it you would want to run ads the day before, or pre-schedule them the day before. And so that was like the biggest hindrance for me, was like, again, my disability. I couldn't exactly just get up and go whenever there was an issue with things like that. And it's not so much that I could have just woke up, put the laptop, had somebody such as like my mom or somebody in the household give me my laptop when I'm in bed. When I am in bed, I am more restricted than I am in a wheelchair. My mobility is way different than when I am in the wheelchair. To give you an idea or a perspective, is when I am in bed, it's hard for me to pick up my drink. It's nearly impossible for me to eat in bed. It's nearly impossible for me to move when I am in bed. I can move in bed, don't get me wrong, but like I'm very, very limited and much more restricted when I'm in bed. So handling the keyboard in bed, as you can imagine, was like nearly impossible because I couldn't exactly reach my hands over to whatever keys I needed. So that was a really big hindrance. I will talk about this in the next video. Stay tuned for the next video, but my entire entrepreneurship journey was not doing the greatest, and I'll just add it here in this video. Why not? And because I was in entrepreneurship for quite some time, then back to what I was saying, is a lot of stuff personally and professionally were not the greatest, was not the easiest. It felt a lot like life was going against me. Life was trying to break me. I didn't understand why I was in a wheelchair. I didn't understand why I had SMA. I didn't understand why certain things were happening, again, both personally and professionally. I didn't understand a lot of different things. And the biggest hindrance for me was like, again, back to what I was saying, is a lot of stuff personally and professionally were not the greatest, was not the easiest. It felt a lot like life was going against me. Life was trying to break me. I didn't understand why I was in a wheelchair. I didn't understand why certain things were happening, again, both personally and professionally. I didn't understand a lot of different things. And because so much was going on, and my optimism started to fade, my positivity started to fade. Behind my smile, I was struggling a lot. Behind my smile, I was just someone that just. Behind my smile was someone who really wished he could just get up and go and hop in a car or go for a run or just leave, you know. Just get up and go, even if it was just for like a few hours on his own. I didn't have that luxury. I didn't have that opportunity. So as you can imagine, despite so much happening within my life in that moment of time, businesses were failing. Disability was not doing the greatest at the time. Personal family stuff was happening here in the household. As you can imagine, my spirit was just breaking, you know. My sense of optimism started to fade. And it eventually led me to go to a mental breakdown. Almost missed it in a really important part though. I take spinal injections for my disability called Spinraza. It so happened that it was December. I will never forget it. I received my injection December. Excuse me. I received my injection December, and my injection didn't go the greatest. I woke up and my hand was numb. I have talked about this before in the history of this channel somewhere. And my hand, because of my Spinraza injection, I get sedated, and I had fell asleep wrong on my arm, which caused me to pinch a nerve, and my entire hand went numb. So like this, for example, I could not feel. Like me, I have this here. It's not the greatest thing. It's like a little spinny thing. This right here, I was not able to feel. So that, me being me at the time, I was optimistic, and I was like, you know what? You fell asleep wrong. You're fine. Give it a few minutes. You'll be okay. Minutes went by. Couldn't feel this. Minutes turned into, okay, give it a few more minutes. Still couldn't feel it. Minutes turned into hours. Hours turned into days. Days turned into weeks. This was not there. That was like the breaking point. A lot of stuff personally and professionally was going wrong. As back to what I was saying, like I wish I could just get up and go. I felt stuck. I felt chained. I felt like life was going so much against me. I was drowning, metaphorically speaking. I was drowning, and I couldn't swim. And this did not help at all. And that was like my breaking point. And that eventually led to me going through a really severe mental breakdown, where I ended up, this mental breakdown led me to me needing psychiatric help. I was sedated for 4 days because I was just lost. I was out there. The me no longer was me. It was like, I will talk about this in a book with much more detail. I want to become more mindful with the words that I choose within this video, more so because it's publicly, and I don't want to mislead anyone. Stuff like this, I have to become very mindful with my choice of words. Again, because I don't want it to be misleading. But this mental breakdown consisted of me being on a psychiatric hold. I was sedated for 4 days straight. A lot of tests were being ran. I couldn't find anything. This happened. This was going on for like 3 weeks straight. You know, I was very sleep deprived. I was awake for 4 days straight. I think 5 days, going on to 5 days straight. Like when I say I had no sleep, I mean I had no sleep. So when you do not sleep, you become very delusional. You become very delusional, you know? And I just didn't feel like myself. And again, I will talk about it in my book, but to give you more of an understanding with what I mean that I wasn't myself is, I feel like the enemy, I call it the enemy had taken over my mind, my mouth, and it became a very serious spiritual warfare with God, along with what I personally believe, my guardian angels, my ancestors, to help me fight this battle that I definitely could not do alone. And I was fortunate enough where I did have the support system in that time of need, where when I was drowning, again, more metaphorically speaking, I had people to throw me like a lifeline. I had people to help me within the process. You know, a lot of people do not have that. So when I reflect on it, I know I am very fortunate for the support system. I am very, very fortunate for what I know now. I am very fortunate. I know, although that moment alone is like a bittersweet moment. You know, I say a bittersweet moment because as ugly as that experience was, as painful as that experience was, as much that I had gone through just within that experience, I wouldn't trade it for the world, because there was something that happened within that experience that transformed me in a paramount way spiritually, where I then started to, there was something that happened where all I can say is Jesus saves. Since then, I started to build my relationship with God. I started to build my relationship with my guardian angels. I started to pray a lot more. I developed a unique sense of a spiritual connection. I want to be mindful with those words. With a spiritual connection to the divine, where I wouldn't trade that experience for anything. Again, as dark and ugly as that experience was, I am very fortunate for that experience, because if it wasn't for that experience, I wouldn't be who I am now. I wouldn't have worked on myself the way I did. I wouldn't pray as much as I do now. I wouldn't have built the relationship with the God that I know now, that I love now. And so I'm very fortunate for that experience. So the purpose of me talking about this video, I was not expecting this video to be that long. I was actually going to make 2 different videos. One which was why I entered entrepreneurship, and then the second video was going to be my 5150 story. And excuse me. And yeah, so these past 4 years alone has been quite the journey. Technically 6 years, because at the beginning of this video I was talking about entrepreneurship. So since I graduated high school, it has been quite the journey. And but I want to end it off with like something great, you know. I entered to kind of summarize everything I said in this video. Is I entered entrepreneurship 2018, failed way more times than I can count. 2020, I had a severe mental breakdown where I was placed on 5150. 5150, for those of you who do not know, is 5150 is a psychiatric hold here in the state of California. So when you are placed on 5150, you have no rights. All of your rights are completely stripped. You have anything you say, anything you try to do, you are on a psychiatric hold where you do not have no form of control over yourself. Not even those around you. Like my mom had no form of control over me. To give you more context just within that situation is the hospital. It was so bad where the hospital tried to send me out to a psychiatric facility. But because of my disability and because of my needs, it wasn't just as easy as transferring a psych patient who needed psychiatric help and treatment. It was very different because of my needs that needed to be met on a daily basis. So that experience, again, as you can imagine, was very scary and frightening something I too wanted to add is I went to go, after I cannot explain it, but I woke up after being sedated, and I was like, I just had like this huge sense of relief. And when I woke up, I remember the psychiatrist had asked me what happened and what do I think was going on. And I told him, "Are you religious?" And he said, "Yeah." And I remember asking vividly for a Bible and a rosary. Now, I'm not religious. I am more spiritual than I am religious. I'm more spiritual than I am religious. So after that experience, I, of course, was on psychiatric meds for quite some time, for a few weeks. I didn't like it. As you can imagine, I was even more worked up because of that entire experience. At that time, I was 21. I just turned 21 years old. So after all those years, I only had lost my self-control once. So I was even more frustrated that out of all these years, I had to take medication that I didn't really feel I needed. But reflecting on it, I do understand where Mom was coming from because of what happened. You know what I mean? So when I reflect on it, I understand 100% her point of view as a mother. You know what I mean? And so I was on psychiatric meds for quite some time. Ended up, I really liked the psychiatrist, an amazing guy, amazing man, really. He was God sent. I can say that 100%. He was truly God sent. Spiritually speaking, he was like a guardian angel that was sent just for me. And I do not say that lightly. And so anyhow, I really liked him a lot, and they suggested therapy, and I was like, yeah, I'll give it a shot. Like, I was all for it. You know, I didn't refuse it. I wasn't against it. Give it a shot. My understanding was it was going to be a one-on-one session, and it wasn't. So because of this entire experience, when I had went to my first therapy session, it was a group session, and I didn't know that. I thought it was a one-on-one session with that psychiatrist because I liked him. And it was a group session. And I'm not again, and let me explain what it is I'm about. Let me finish what it is I'm about to say. Is when I went to the group session, I had nothing against it. I was like, okay, it's fine. You know, it's not what I expected, but I'm okay with it. When I was in the group session, because I was a the newcomer, I was quiet. You know, you really don't say much. You just kind of introduce yourself, and you kind of leave it at that. You kind of just sit there and just hear everybody else talk. The thing I did not like about about this, and I'll explain why in a second, is everybody around, like I don't know if they were psychiatrists. I don't really know what their position was, or their medical title was. But basically, this girl was going around and she was asking, "How are you doing, Susan?" For example, their name wasn't Susan, but Susan was like the first thing that came to mind. How are you doing today, Susan? And, "Oh, I'm doing okay, but I'm having suicidal thoughts," or "Today I really didn't think about taking my life," or things like that. And when I first heard that, my mind was immediately like, this is not for me. And the reason why, and it wasn't just Susan, you know, again, her name wasn't Susan, but it wasn't so much as Susan, but a lot of different people kind of like were talking about the same different things. And yeah, my experience was dark, and I will talk a lot about it. I will open up myself more. I will open myself up more when I write a book, just because, again, I want to become more mindful with my choice of words, especially here publicly. And the thing I didn't like about it is I am here drowning, metaphorically speaking, and I am surrounding myself with other people who are drowning. I didn't like that. For me personally, I didn't need to be surrounded with those people who are drowning. I needed to be around those people who could teach me how to swim. Again, metaphorically speaking. Ended up doing the group session twice. Ended up giving it a second try. Didn't like it. It just wasn't for me. And nothing wrong with it. If it helps you, great. But again, I needed, in order for me to really, really get out of what it was I was going through, I needed to be surrounded with like a much more positive environment. You cannot stay in a negative environment and expect positive change. That's just not how life works, unfortunately. If you are in a negative situation, you have to seek positive. If you are in a negative environment, you have to seek a positive environment elsewhere. If you are not one who is able to have any positive environment around you, fortunately, if you have access to this video, you actually have access to a lot of different people, and you have access to a lot of different people, whether it's on social media, whether it's on YouTube, and you can surround yourself with those positive influences. And so if you are in a negative environment, my recommendation is to surround yourself with positive influences on social media and on YouTube. That is personally what I started to do. And so I gave the therapy session a try. Didn't like it. Didn't work for me. I didn't go again. Then I was able to manage to get myself off of the psychiatric medication. And the only reason why I started taking it is because my psychiatrist at the time had asked me, what is it that you need help with? And I was like, I just need help with sleep. Like at the time, there was just a lot of different stuff going on. It was really hard for me to sleep. And he was like, okay, we can make that. He was like, okay, I can give you something to help you sleep. Great. I was happy. Well, I started taking that medication. And with my understanding was that medication was going to help me sleep. And it wasn't just my own understanding. Even my mom was under the interpretation that the medication I was taking was to help me sleep. Excuse me. And it wasn't. I started taking it and I was able to sleep. Okay. This is like, and I won't say that. It was like it was like the placebo effect. When you take something and you really think that it's for that thing, what happens? Your mind believes it, and because you believe it, you feel like it's actually working. It's like the placebo effect. So I got to experience that firsthand. And my understanding was the medication was to help me sleep, and it wasn't. So I started taking the medication after I went to the psychiatrist again for a follow-up appointment. They had asked me how I'm doing. I'm like, I'm doing great. I'm able to sleep, and I'm feeling great. He was like, oh, okay. He was like, well, maybe we can. He was like, today I would like to up your dosage of your medication since it seems to be working and see how it works for you. And I was telling him, I was like, I'm actually here to talk about me stopping the medication. And he was like, I wouldn't. He was like, maybe we can taper down. He was like, but he was like, I would really, I wouldn't recommend you to stop. Well, fortunately for me, before that follow-up appointment, there was a experience of mine where I had a flare-up again, where I was getting frustrated because of the circumstances and how my life seemed to have changed. Not only do I feel so much restricted because I'm in a wheelchair, but now I feel like I'm in a prison because now when I am trying to work through what it was I was going through, that image, everyone around me, that image was instilled in their mind from what had happened, which is completely understandable. Like I had a severe mental breakdown. And here I am, not even like a month later, talking about I don't need this medication. You know what I mean? That's awfully fairly quickly. Again, there was a spiritual experience that happened just within that experience alone that I cannot explain, I cannot put into words. But again, I wouldn't trade that ugly experience for anything because it showed me so much beauty from that ugly experience. And it's like art, in the very beginning it can look like a mess, but when you keep working at this craft, you eventually turn it into something that can be quite memorizing, quite beautiful. And so I told him I wanted to stop, and he was like, well, I wouldn't recommend that. And I was like, well, I actually stopped taking this medication. I think it was like 2 weeks ago or something like that, at the time, during that time. And he was like, really? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, I've been sleeping great. And he was like, well, I have something to tell you. He was like, the medication actually wasn't there to help you sleep. It was actually for, I forgot what it was. It was like a antidepressant or something like that. I cannot remember the name of it. And that right there was like the final line where, yeah, I am definitely not taking anything else from you. And so I was able to, so I ended up stopping all that, and I started to work on things myself. I tried everything but therapy, I didn't phrase that. I did try therapy twice, but I ended up stopping. Got off antidepressants. So to give you a quick summarization again, I know I just summarized it, but to give you a quick summarization again, it's 2018, I entered entrepreneurship. 2020, I had a severe mental breakdown. 2018, I entered entrepreneurship. 2019, ended up losing my feeling in my hand. 2000, and I did regain feeling. Made a video talking about that too. Because I was able to do this, I didn't have feeling at the time, but because I was able to do this, I knew that the outlet was there, but the connection was gone. Meaning the outlet was me being able to do this, but the connection for me to feel wasn't there. It was disconnected. I knew that I just somehow needed to find the connection to my outlet, if that makes sense. And so I did regain feeling. So 2018, I entered entrepreneurship, failed so many times beyond I can count. 2019, I had a procedure that didn't do so well, caused my hand to go numb. 2020, I had a severe mental breakdown. And fast forward to now, which is 2020-24, is I had stopped my e-commerce business. I started drop shipping, and I started working on my personal brand. I built my own website, Victortheinspiration.com, documenting literally my entire process, from documenting my story, documenting my entire life process, more so within these past 4 years, from me going through what it was I was going through, how I overcame it, what I learned from it, in hopes that you too can feel inspired, hopes that you too can learn how to swim, And built on my website, started this YouTube channel, built something else that I will not quite reveal just yet. Built something else, and over time, now I have other brands. I have this YouTube channel, Victor the Inspiration, my second YouTube channel, Vicspiration Shared Philosophy, my third YouTube channel, The Victor Motivation, my fourth YouTube channel, The Victor Visionary, and my fifth YouTube channel, which is in the works as we speak. I will make a video talking about that later, which is SMA Victor. This YouTube channel is primarily based, this YouTube channel I want to focus more on personal development, mental health related content. Every once in a while, I will post updates with my SMA. My second YouTube channel, Vicspiration Shared Philosophy, is me offering forms of wisdom, encouragement, things that can offer you guidance along your path. My third YouTube channel, which is The Victor Motivation, it is a motivational YouTube channel to kind of help you find your drive, find your determination, pick up your spirits to help you become ambitious, help you chase something to give you a sense of direction, push you a little bit. My fourth YouTube channel, The Victor Visionary, is a YouTube channel where I create music. Some music I have help with the lyrics, and there was one song that I recently just made, not recently, it was like almost a year ago, but one song I made, which was The Enemy Within, and that song I ended up writing myself from beginning to end. And my fifth YouTube channel, which is SMA Victor, that one's in the works. By the time this video uploads, I may have my first video uploaded already. And SMA Victor is about bringing SMA awareness and what it is about. SMA Victor is to bring SMA awareness for those of you who do not know what SMA is. SMA is a very rare condition. SMA, to give you a quick synopsis of SMA in short, is a progressive disability that takes away the ability to walk, eat, and breathe over time. So I wanted to bring SMA awareness because it's part of me, it is me, and I would love to bring awareness, shed more light on SMA as much as I possibly can, because again, it's rare. And I want you to hear that although I may not be where I want to be, I definitely am not where I used to, and for that I am thankful. So my biggest piece of advice, if you are entering entrepreneurship, is be consistent, adapt to your environment, do what you can, learn from your mistakes, continue to find ways on how you can grow, continue to find ways on how you can improve what it is you're working on, whether it's you personally, whether it's you professionally. Find ways on how you can better oneself, both personally and professionally. And second thing that I would like to add, if you are someone who is going through a lot mentally, maybe you too had a mental breakdown, maybe you feel like you were on the verge of having a mental breakdown, learn from those who not only have been where you once are, learn from those who have not only gone through what you are, but has overcame it. Because it is one thing to know the path, but it is another to have gone through it. Learn from those who can offer you guidance to overcome the very thing that you seem you cannot get out of. To give you a quick example, metaphorically speaking, if you are drowning, learn from those who can teach you how to swim. Again, metaphorically speaking. I love you. I appreciate you. Please comment down below any form of value you have personally gained from this video. This video was an hour long. I was not expecting this. Again, I was going to make this into 2 videos, but I thought, why not make it into 1? I love you. I appreciate you. Please check the links within the description and check out my website. Check out my previous videos. If you gain value from this video, you definitely will gain value from my other videos as well. I love you. I appreciate you. Please comment down below any form of value you have personally gained from this video. Again, I love you. I appreciate you. And remember, grow through what you go through. Much love.